It's a place where children from all over the state come to receive the best health care Arkansas offers. Healing is in their nature. But for some children, that healing may have never come.
Maybe we missed something. Maybe there was something there that we didn't see or collect, but it was in that kit.
Carol Maxwell is the director of social work at Arkansas Children's Hospital. She helps children and their families through a variety of difficult situations, including the process of collecting a sexual assault evidence kit.
A kit is done on a patient, it could be male or female, if there is a history of or disclosure of any kind of sexual contact for which there might be forensic evidence to obtain.
Those kits are supposed to be tested for any DNA that doesn't belong to that child, possibly proving the assault happened and who did it. But for hundreds of kits, those tests never happened. This is a sexual assault evidence collection kit. It's about the same size as one of these tapes. But since we couldn't show you the actual kits, we set up this display. These 200 tapes represent the 200 kits that sat in storage at Arkansas Children's Hospital, some of them since 2001. It's a fairly detailed process. The hospital collects the kit and notifies the Arkansas Child Abuse Hotline, who in turn notifies the law enforcement agency where the crime happened. Police come, they pick up the kit and take it to the Arkansas State Crime Lab for testing. But in the case of these 200 kits, law enforcement never came.
The ones that aren't taken are generally because there either isn't just a really clear preponderance of evidence that makes law enforcement want to do it. They have other huge issues they're dealing with, and sometimes if it's a weak history, not weak that we don't need to report it, but too weak maybe that they're not going to be able to do anything with it, like a 2 or 3 year old who really can't give a disclosure. What are they going to do about that, even though there's concern? So I think there are just a lot of reasons why law enforcement doesn't pick up the kits and why they have collected over time.
Arkansas Children's Hospital says it realized some time ago the kits were stacking up. They contacted several agencies to figure out what they should do. And finally, last month,
oral swabs, and there's also a known blood sample envelope.
The Arkansas State Crime Lab and Director Kermit Channel offered their help.
We will accept those kits, basically transferred from Children's Hospital to us, so we have a proper chain of custody. We'll examine the kits and to decide whether or not there's anything worthy of DNA at that point.
Channel says they are currently testing a batch of 20 of these kits, looking for anything that is not tied to that potential victim. The crime lab will collect 50 more every other week until all of the kits are tested. Many of them may turn up nothing, but for the ones that do, Channel says his office will find the law enforcement agency they belong to.
One way or another, we will ascertain whether or not there's anything in the kit, and we will get results to the appropriate personnel.
But even then, Arkansas Children's Hospital collected these kits as long as 12 years ago. Even if they find the potential perpetrator, is it too late?
The longer the time span, of course, the more difficult it's going to be. The best time is right when things happen, that we follow up on leads and do our investigation.
Felicia Epps is a professor of law at UALR and says it's not impossible to prosecute a potential child abuser so many years later, but it will require much more than the results of a DNA test. Even then, the statute of limitations for many of them may be up.
The norm would be 6 years, so that means for some of those cases we would be beyond the time when those charges could be pursued, but there are other factors that can come in to change that as well.
By law, it is impossible for we the media to know exactly which law enforcement agencies were involved in this. We contacted several to see what their processes were, why they would pick up some kits and not others. None of them wanted to go on camera. As for Arkansas Children's Hospital, they are now taking matters into their own hands, contacting law enforcement themselves.
I'm very optimistic that notifying law enforcement directly will really not completely resolve it, because we're probably always going to have those vague cases that nobody wants to manage, but I think getting them more involved in the front end is really going to be helpful.